This subgroup will finalize a report on the strength of the present political system and the public's view of the post-1997 framework, to be submitted to the plenary session of the drafting committee later this month. The future political system is one of the main concerns of the public in the drafting of the Basic Law. How this part of the future constitution for the territory will be drawn up will decide whether Hong Kong can enjoy a high degree of autonomy after 1997 while maintaining its prosperity and stability. The promise for Hong Kong to enjoy the high degree of autonomy, except in foreign and defense affairs, which are the responsibility of the Chinese government, was made in the Sino-British Joint Declaration over the future of Hong Kong. But a bomb on this issue was dropped by China's chief representative in Hong Kong, Xu Jiatun, last year. In the first press conference since his arrival in the territory, he accused the British government of not implementing the joint declaration according to its spirit, implying that political reforms in Hong Kong have been pushed too far. The Hong Kong government was working towards a more representative government system before the bilateral declaration was signed, when it announced in 1984 the introduction of indirect elections to the Legislative Council in 1985. The results of the political review, which will take place next year, will affect the elections into LegCo in 1988. The issue of the convergence of the Basic Law in the 1987 political review thus emerged. While Hong Kong is to remain under British rule until 1997, many people have expressed concern that changes to the present political setup during this transition period would cause conflict with the Basic Law, the first draft of which will not be ready until 1988.
Not built on conflict and turbulence.
But latest signs have shown that there is a dialogue between the Chinese and British governments over this question, and convergence would not be a problem.
Which can offer the means
to accompany Her Majesty the Queen.
In a press conference in Hong Kong last month, British Foreign Secretary Sir Geoffrey Howe explains.
What we are all concerned to achieve is the objective described in the joint declaration, namely a smooth transfer of power in 1997. It is therefore important that every available means should be used to achieve that. Divergence, increasing differences of view, would not be helpful to the smooth transfer of government. And that's why it is so important, as the Governor has said, for Her Majesty's government and the Chinese government at all times to be alive to the concerns and views of the other, as well as to the views expressed by the people of Hong Kong.
The recent political debate has given the public, or at least the government, an impression that there is a divergence in view, both within and out of LegCo, as what direction Hong Kong's political system should go, at least for 1988. The governor said in his annual address last month,
in 1987, we shall review progress and consider the further development of representative government. This will be one of the most important tasks of the coming year. Our society is not static, and we must be alive to the need to allow wider participation in the processes of government if this proves to be the general aspiration of the community. At this point in time, there is a wide range of opinion and no clear consensus on many important issues. Ample time will therefore be allowed for public consultation. Only then will come the time for firm decisions.
Liu Yuqiu says that if there is no consensus, the BLDC can delay a decision on the future political structure in this month's meeting.
Members of a drafting committee should not rush into a conclusion. And I think Hong Kong people can only help the situation if they avoid confrontation, if they avoid too much mutual incrimination. You see, I think people who support all the various formulas should come together more and try to arrive at a consensus instead of accusing each other.
Despite a delay, Liu says there will be no problem in the convergence.
I think everybody should respect everybody else's views, but the responsibility for drafting the basic law rests solely with China. And the basic law decides what the system will be in the future.
It now appears that the future political setup of the territory will depend on which political thinking advocated by the different groups will have the ears of the Basic Law Drafting Committee or the Chinese government. Both local Chinese and the foreign community are looking forward to a clearer picture, which will hopefully emerge after the BLDC's full meeting in a few weeks' time. In part 2 of Focus, we'll see whether foreigners or local Chinese with foreign passports can participate in the future government. Hong Kong, cosmopolitan city, international financial center. China hopes to keep it that way after 1997. The Sino-British Joint Declaration states that Hong Kong will retain this status as a free port and a separate customs territory, as well as an international financial center after 1997. During the bilateral talks, much discussions were given to the notion of Hong Kong people ruling Hong Kong under an unprecedented formula of one country, two systems. The joint declaration carefully separated permanent residents from local inhabitants. While permanent residents enjoy the right of abode, the government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region will be composed of local inhabitants only. Many Hong Kong people feel that the future government should not be ruled by Beijing cadres, but they're not so concerned about people with foreign passports getting elected into the post-1997 legislature. In a recent meeting at Xiamen, a sub